Yep, this is Caesar Walker, the cool, calm, collected one.
And I'm Ronnie Gatrey, the emotional one.
And we are the Tipping Point Podcast, your source for sophisticated ignorance, intellectual stupidity, and well-articulated nonsense. Horn.
Walker! We finna cook!
Walker, can you come to our game?
I think this is the tipping point. Peace and blessings, beloveds. We want to shout out all of you who are listening to us, our longtime listeners, as well as our first-time listeners. And if you're listening to us for the first time and you are enjoying this sophisticated ignorance, this intellectual stupidity, please subscribe and follow us on whatever streaming platform you're streaming this podcast from. Also, guys, you can follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube page. You can find all of that information on our website. Gatrey, the website is
thetippingpoint.com, T-H-A, tippingpoint.com.
And thank you, sir. And with that, we shall begin episode 84, I believe.
Is it 84? Okay.
I think it's 84. Last one was 83.
After 12, it's been hard for me to keep count, so okay.
You get it right every now and again.
Thanks.
First, before we even get started, we're recording this on the 4th of July weekend. We're hoping that you have had a safe holiday, an enjoyable holiday. And yeah, that's all I got to say there. Gatrey, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm going to start everything off by just saying, Walker, happy belated birthday, bro. We showed you love on the whole social media thing, but yeah, man, it was good to see you enjoy your day. We see your fresh cut too and your new hairstyle.
Thank you.
We're calling that out, even though you're being modest and you don't want to say anything about it. But it's okay. You'll get that one day out of the year to just do you, I guess. But nah, man, it's cool. Happy belated birthday again. Definitely a blessing to be on the other side of the screen from you right now, on the other side of the microphone, even though, if I had my way, we'd be in the studio, Rudio, whatever we call it, chopping it up like old times. But I know we're one day closer to that, so I'm cool.
One day
closer.
One day for
so
sure.
Yeah, anyway, happy belated, man.
Thank you. And thanks to those of you who showed love on social media too, as well. I didn't get around to responding. There was texts, posts flying all over the place. I haven't gotten a chance to respond to everyone, but thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate that.
We had some love from our podcast family too. So yeah, thank y'all for helping me wish this man over here a happy belated. You want to talk about your birthday? Did you get anything, Walker, besides that fresh cut?
No, I just did the family thing. My wife had to work that day, so I spent time with my folks, and then I spent time with my parents, and then I spent time with my sister and my niece and nephew for a little bit. Got a haircut and then kicked it with wifey that evening.
Not bad, Walker. Okay.
Yeah, so it's weird time, so you can't really get out like you want to. So I did what I could, and I made the most of it. It was a good start to a good weekend.
Gotcha. You're so much older than me, but it's all good. A whole 3 weeks, but anyway. What else is going on, man? No, this is you. You got to say something.
I did a little shopping. I had a lot of first. I actually went to a restaurant for the first time.
Okay.
Since we've been quarantined. I think I was telling you about that.
You didn't dine in though.
No. They didn't even provide you the opportunity to dine in.
Thank goodness.
It was only pickup, but that was my first time doing even that. And then I went to the mall for the first time and actually spent some money on me. So yeah.
You went to the mall?
Yeah. Got in, got out.
Thank goodness. Man, okay. You gonna tell us what you picked up, or do we gonna keep that under wraps?
We'll keep that under wraps.
Okay.
I'll tell you off mic.
I'll check your IG because I know you got some drip. But anyway, cool, man. Well,
so that was the day after my birthday. I was kind of ripping and running on my birthday, and then the next day, everything slows down, and you're able to kind of do those things and not have to worry about seeing people and what's next. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man, that's it for me. And the holiday was good. My 4th was good. I didn't get out. I just stayed at the home. We had got all the groceries. We grilled a little bit, just kicked it, watched movies. It was great.
Nice,
it was
man.
great.
Okay.
Yeah. Didn't need to go to see fireworks because my neighborhood, the different streets were competing with one another. So
That's
it was just like,
crazy.
yeah, we sat on the deck and just watched. Oh, that street's turning up. Oh, that whoa. You know what I mean? It was
What y'all
almost
about
like
to
a
do?
yeah, it was like a fireworks battle between streets, it seems. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And I was like, why don't y'all just come together and just put on a show together? Like, no one thought about that. But anyway.
Now, would that sound like Black America?
Too soon. Too soon, Gatrey. Too soon.
Sorry, I just get loose
Too
lipped up
soon.
here. Only jokes, white people. Relax. Black people, relax too. These are only jokes. Goodness.
Oh,
Some
man,
people
that's
can be
funny.
so tense, man. Relax.
Too soon. Somebody had to say it though. That's funny though. That's funny. But yeah, that's it, man. How about you? How was your holiday?
Walker.
How was your holiday?
It's going well. We did the Gatrey Regional Aquarium Tour. Yeah, dude, this is the thing now. There's 4 people that do it every year, and they all happen to live in our house. But no, we head over to ATL and took the boys to the Georgia Aquarium. I got to shout out the Georgia Aquarium, man. I felt really safe in there in terms of like, COVID awareness and things like that. You had to wear your mask and all that, and they kept traffic moving. They made sure people were spread out. It was really cool. The boys got a kick out of it. And we headed up north and went to Chattanooga to the Tennessee Aquarium, man. We knocked that out the last few days. So that was cool. Did it for the boys, just trying to get them something, something marginally safe, out here in these streets. But we did that, got some good quality family time, man. Ate really good in Chattanooga, if I got to be honest about it. Ate super good. But yeah, that's about it, man. Those were really quick hitters. We didn't hang out at the aquarium too long, but we got that in. And Walker, to be honest, my wife is going through, and it's crazy. It's ironic I'm wearing the shirt. My wife is going through Disney withdrawals, as some of our longtime listeners have been informed. The Gatreys do Disney quite often under normal circumstances, so it's looking like Disney's not going to be a reality for us anytime soon. So it's funny. We have to like think outside of Disney. Like don't tell Mickey we're doing other things. So
that's funny.
So it was interesting to hear my wife's commentary about what we chose to do this week and just how it compares or does not compare to Disney. So, and it's just like I got the point. I realized, hey, this is where my life is. It's really embarrassing. But whatever. But that was about it, man. That was about it. Good times indeed.
Did the 4th hit a little different this year for you?
Oh yeah, it did, Walker.
In light of how you have traditionally approached the 4th of July?
Yeah.
I even started to make a post about it, but I refrained. But I was like, it just ain't hitting the same.
Right.
And I don't know if it's COVID or if it's just the fact that we turned up a few weeks ago for Juneteenth. Like, I don't know what it is, but it just seems like this holiday was a little different as compared to previous 4th of July's. Just didn't know if it was just me.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting, interesting segue there. Thank you for putting that there, Walker. But I had a really good conversation with a white female friend of mine. Shout out to FC. I know she's listening. She's a new listener. She likes what we're doing. So thank you for listening. I'm calling you FC. She knows what that means. But no, she hit me. She hit me and was like, hey, I'm just curious, like, how does the 4th of July, like, how does it, I'm paraphrasing, but how does it hit with you? Like, do you feel any sense of patriotism? Because after, learning all this stuff about, America's, terrible racial history, she said, I couldn't, it's easy for me to assume that someone in your shoes probably doesn't look at the 4th like most people want to look at the 4th. And so we got in a really, really good detailed conversation just about, I guess, I call it Black patriotism, Walker, but it should really be lack of patriotism, and I guess for me, because I think we talked about this last year. For me, I've been a little shy about my lack of patriotism, I guess, for this country. But it was good to hear a white female say, hey, look, I understand, I'm not black, so I don't understand like to the level you are. But again, after educating myself, I can see how you're just not going to be parading around, the beach or wherever, just brandishing this American flag, because this country just hasn't really, hasn't treated people of color the same way as it treats, the majority. So anyway, that we got into a long conversation about that. She understood, she empathized, she listened, which was really cool. And she even made a bold statement by saying, even for me, now that I'm conscious of all these things, the fourth even hits different for me. So it was very impactful, very powerful conversation. You have any thoughts about that, Walker?
I just think I'm impressed that she even researched.
Yeah,
like that's something that stood out to me, is that she's researched the history of our country and what has transpired that isn't really talked about a lot. So I think for her to even have that frame of mind to do that is highly commendable.
True.
And I think once you're aware of something, it does change the perception of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I guess in the past for you, how have you felt?
It hasn't been a holiday I've gotten too excited about. I know in my youth, we didn't really talk about it much in the house. I'm telling you, man, I just equate it to a day where, I get to, and this is when I was really young, but I get to take those little, I forget the name of them, but those little popper things, fireworks, the little paper thing, you throw them on the ground, they make a pop. I just knew it was time to do that. We usually went to see some family on my dad's side every year for the 4th, and all they did were fireworks. And I knew I wasn't big enough to light the big fireworks, so I got these little, little pop socket things, whatever you call them, and I was content. I didn't know anything else about that. But of course, through school, you learn about, the independence of this nation and all that stuff. But it just never hit. And Walker, I'll share another story with you. For work, we did this promotion, and this is a different holiday. Well, we did this internal promotion about Flag Day, right? And in this promotion, I'm on video talking about what we plan to do for Flag Day, and I'm holding a flag. And I remember watching the video after I did it. It was hard for me to be genuine about the message I was trying to convey while I was holding that flag. And it was just like, man, and for those of you who may be new to this podcast, I don't want anyone to think I'm anti-America, right? It's just through the lens of what I've had to experience in my life. When I look at that flag, I see different things than other people see. So and as I've grown older and as I've dealt with different things, been exposed to a lot, it's going to change the way I look at that flag. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that answer your question, Walker?
It does. And that has been similar sentiments for me. I've seen other people post similar things throughout the years on 4th of July from a Black perspective that may seem anti-American or non-patriotic. The best analogy I can give to those who are curious as to why we feel that way is look at it this way. Let's say that we all attend the same church, right? And the church is active in the community. It's led by a pastor who's very loving, he's very charismatic. He does a great job of teaching the Bible and is very kind to the people. Let's just say that I am a preacher's kid. I'm the child of that pastor, right? Now, I'm not a preacher's kid in real life, but just for example, I'm the child of this pastor. So everyone in this church loves this pastor. They love this man and what he means to the community, what he means to the people in that church and in the surrounding areas, right? But let's say for me, I have a different perspective of him because I know things about him that the general public as well as people in the congregation don't know. I may know that he may have cheated on my mom before. I may know that he's may have even been abusive to my mom. He may have neglected me and my siblings, right? And so a person in the congregation comes to me and says, man, I know your dad is so awesome. He's an awesome pastor. I know you're just so lucky to have a great man like him as your dad. And while they're excited, I have a much more comprehensive perception and experience with this guy, because not only have I seen the public version of him, but I also see the private version of him. And because I have a much more comprehensive vantage point or view of this man, it's hard for me to get up and excited about him as the next person coming to me, because I know more about him. Right. And I think when you look at this country, again, a lot of people have a certain perception of America that isn't oppressive. Right. But if you talk to someone who's black or minority and they have been reminded of this every day, then they're going to have a different perception of America. And in that example, it's not like I don't love my father. I love my father, but I just have a much more comprehensive view of him. And I think that's one of the reasons why as black people, we struggle with this word patriotism, because this word patriotism it omits the black experience in a lot of ways. In other words, if I'm to be patriotic, then I have to see America through your eyes. And it's difficult to unsee certain things once you've been forced to see it time and time again. Just like it'd be difficult for me to look at my father, the pastor, in a different light, because I've seen things and experienced things with my eyes that is difficult to make me unsee. And so when we talk about patriotism, we have to be very careful about how we project that onto other people whose experiences are different from ours. And I think that's why a lot of black people struggle with that, because we've seen people who have been patriots for this country stand up and fight. The very fact that we have an Independence Day was because people fought something that they were against. You look at the Boston Tea Party, you look at different movements in history where people were not satisfied with the status quo and they were considered patriots. How all of a sudden we fight for something and we're considered un-American is beyond me. It's very hypocritical. So I think it's just important to understand just the history and the perception that many, or the experience that black people have had in this country. And it's amazing to me that even in spite of what all is going on, we're still here and we still actually love America. We just see America for what it is, and we're not willing to stick our heads in the sand.
Beautifully explained there, and you made me think of an example you drew up. I think this was last year, and you talk about comparing the black experience in America to a dysfunctional relationship. You know, it doesn't mean you don't have love for the person who may be, you know, the catalyst of dysfunction, if you will, but you want to see them do better, right? So you hold them accountable. If you're in a like mutually exclusive, loving relationship, you're going to hold that person accountable. Same thing applies for the black experience in America. So great.
One could argue that you really love that person even more by holding them accountable.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's and to me, shouts out to your friend for even being understanding, because that's a lot of work to get a lot of people to even get that and even comprehend that.
One thing to kind of echo your shout out of FC, she's been super intentional just about, you know, communicating and sharing how she's feeling about certain things and calling out what's wrong. And, you know, she and I have been talking about, you know, what is it that prohibits, you know, white people from standing up against things like this. And I don't know, our conversation since the execution of George Floyd has just been very moving. I've learned, you know, a lot from her, you know, and one of the things, and I think you said this too, Walker, one of the things she said to me on our last conversation was, hey, look, it's not your responsibility to teach me this stuff. I got to care enough to go figure it out on my own. And when she said that, I was like,
Right.
But
Right.
can you take that message and share it with with 20 other people? You know,
Right.
like,
Right.
look to your neighbor and say,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyway, shout out FC. Thank you for providing some very good, thought provoking conversation.
It is. It is. Well, that's the main. Was that the main topic?
Yeah, I think so. Unless you got something else on you got to get off your chest.
Well, we can transition on.
Okay.
Before
There's only one way to transition.
Get Doherty.
Get Doherty.
But before we do that, I do want to say rest in peace to Royta Giles Jr. This is for those of us who are locally in Birmingham. I don't think this story really got outside of the state of Alabama, but there was a shooting in the largest mall we have in Birmingham, which injured 3 people and unfortunately claimed the life of 8-year-old Royta Giles Jr. So our thoughts and prayers are with the family. And I think we talked about this before we got started. We believe the shooter is still at large, right?
Yeah, as far as I know at the time of this recording, I haven't seen anything or heard any official release about them capturing whoever's responsible for this. Yeah.
So our prayer is that whoever is responsible is brought to justice. And our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Very senseless shooting, very senseless crime. And we hope whoever's responsible is found.
And I echo that and want to extend those thoughts and to those other 3 who were injured, who are recovering right now. So and then the tons of people who are exposed to this. I just remember reading an account yesterday from a lady who was shopping there, who as they were filing people out of the mall, you know, she got to see, well, not got to, but she happened to see the crime scene, the fatal crime scene, and she described what she saw, and I was just like, what type of impact does that have on that person mentally after seeing that? You know, and I can't even repeat what she said just because it would take me to a place I'm not prepared to go on this podcast. But you know, and I'm not taking anything away from Mr. Giles and his family. Don't get me wrong. I just really want to share that we're thinking about everyone impacted in this situation. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
On the heels of that, moving on from that, we put a bow there, but I saw a lot of people comment about it, and the conversation about Black Lives Matter came up.
Of course.
And we see a lot of people who say, you know, if Black Lives Matter, and we're not talking white people, we're talking about Black people, like Black Lives Matter, it needs to matter to us in this regard. What do you think? How do you feel about that when stuff like this happens, and people begin to draw a parallel to what the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to achieve? What do you think about it, Gatrey?
I'm so glad you asked this because I have this in my notes as well. Let me start from the top. And as of now, this recording, we don't know who's responsible for this. You know, the social media narrative like loosely implies that it could have been a Black person, right? So, you know, but we don't know.
Black crime.
Yeah. We don't know for a fact, and we're gonna go just based off what we know right now. So it's really hard to really put more emphasis there. But in terms of your question, in terms of like the impact on what I call BLM, we've got a bigger issue, I think, and that is, and think about it. My wife and I talked about this as we're walking the streets of Chattanooga. You see how the news and the media cycle is structured. If anything happens in the Black community where it happens to be a Black person committing a crime against another Black person, it's the first thing you're going to hear on the news. But think about it from a numbers and a metrics perspective. We as Black people represent the overwhelming minority across this diverse racial landscape of the United States. So you mean to tell me, you know, if white people are the overwhelming majority, that these crimes may or may not be existing in those communities as well? That's a question. I mean, I'm asking the question. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. But I choose to believe that there is quote white on white crime, and I don't even like that that's not a thing. I have problems with black on black crime being a thing now. People, so easy to say that. But if you represent the overwhelming minority, I think naturally from a metrics perspective, you are going to be exposed to crimes just like this. But unfortunately, when dealing with the news cycle and the way the media is structured, we're not going to get exposed that much to crimes like this. I know, Walker, I'll share this when and I hate saying this because it's loose, but when I'm searching for Player of the Week candidates, you don't know how many articles I stumble across where it is, a white person inflicting a crime against another white person. So even sometimes fatal. But it's just It's weird how I have to go and dig for these things. I'm not even looking for that, but I have to go and dig. Whereas I can go to AL.com. I'm not calling out AL.com. I'm just saying as an example. But I can go to a major media outlet, click on the homepage, and I know what I'm going to see. Somebody that looks like me who's done something bad. I think that's a problem. So I say all that to say, Walker, it's a cheap shot for you, especially in this situation, to assume or insinuate A, that a black person was involved in this, but B, if black people don't even value their own, then what does BLM even mean? I think that's a cheap shot. Those are my thoughts. What do you think, Walker?
I think that's an interesting point you brought up about the media's responsibility in terms of how these stories get reported, and how that can create a larger narrative across the board. Very, very good point there. What I would say is that while I believe that it is true that black lives have to matter to black people, I don't like when people bring that up because you're conflating two totally different issues here. Yes, it's a problem because, I talked a few weeks back about us as a community being on the same page. You'd be on the same page by having a code of conduct, a code of ethics, right? And part of that is valuing each other and respecting one another. If I respect you and value you, I'm not going to take your life. I'm not going to sell drugs to you. I'm not going to, I'm going to support you when you start a business. Like we have to get back to having a code, and killing someone is a direct violation of that. So there's a valid point there. The problem is that when you talk about Black Lives Matter, it's addressing a systemic issue that a quote unquote black on black crime would not expose. For example, let me read off some stats for you. We know about the 13th Amendment, right?
Correct.
13th Amendment abolished slavery except for punishment of a crime. So slavery still exists, but it exists in the prison systems. Now, according to the Pew Research Center, there were, and it was actually down, but it was down to 1,501 black prisoners for every 100,000 black adults at the end of 2018. According to a report from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Okay. Now let's show you how that compares to other groups of people. That is almost double the amount of who was in second place. Hispanics, for Hispanics, it's 797 prisoners for every 100,000 adults, Hispanic adults, almost double. For white people, it's 268 for every 100,000 adults, according to this study. Now, according to the study by the U.S. Sentencing Commission back in 2017, black men who commit the same crimes as white men receive federal prison sentence that are on average nearly 20% longer. So what you have is you're having black people, you have a system in place that appears from the statistics to target black men, right? And for the same crimes that other people are committing, they're serving longer prison sentences. So we see, based on the statistics, there's an implication of racial bias there, right? Also, we know that because of this, and the 13th documentary by Ava DuVernay points this out very well, is that prisons have become big business for not only major companies, but private companies. Again, according, and I'm citing my sources, according to a recent article in ranker.com, they mentioned 49 major companies. Among those who were Starbucks, Whole Foods, Walmart, Wendy's, have profited off of prison labor. So we see that Black, like, racial bias has been the fuel for this system that appears to target Black lives. So when a Black reason, why am I bringing this up? Because if a Black person kills a Black person, the system still works, because the system is designed to target Black men and feed them into the prison system, right?
Yeah.
So yes, as terrible as it is, as off code as it is to murder another Black person, it doesn't exploit or expose the flaw or the corruption in the system we're trying to address. But you take an officer of the law and he kills an unarmed Black person. Far too many times in the past, Gatrey, that officer not only they don't even get charged, much less convicted of murdering an unarmed Black person. So herein lies the problem. Let's take everything I just said into account. So you're targeting Black men and feeding them into the prison system. 20% of the time, they're serving longer prison sentences for the same crime as their white counterparts, right? And you're profiting off of it, which means there's no incentive for you to undo this system. Then an officer of the law murders a Black person who's unarmed, and now it's being recorded, so we see the totality of what happened. So clearly this is a murder, right? And in many cases, we can't even get excited if they get charged, because we've seen this movie play out. What does that communicate to us as Black people, Gatrey? That our lives don't matter at all. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we're trying to bring attention to a system that is telling us each and every day it doesn't matter. And until we get that messaging across, we can't address this system. A Black man killing a Black man, the system, it works without a hiccup. But we see these inequities and inequalities when someone outside of the Black community murders one of us. And that's the problem. So I don't want us to conflate these problems. I don't want us to conflate these issues, because they're two totally different issues. And yes, Black lives have to matter to Black people, but we cannot use that as an excuse to let the law, officers, and the government off the hook, because they have a responsibility as well. Case in point.
Well put, sir.
Okay. Guess I'm on one today.
Yeah, you're turned up for sure, and I like it.